always said the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
I'm the Southeast Regional Organizer for OWR, and welcome to the Revolution. So joining us today is Aisha Moe, who is running for Wisconsin's 26th State Senate District. So how are you doing today, Aisha?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good considering the circumstances with the corona and everything, but I'm holding up as best I can, but that's all we can do in this time.
Absolutely.
That's definitely. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Aisha Moe. I'm running for State Senate in the 26th District. I am a recent UW-Madison graduate. I went to high school here in Madison, and I studied African Cultural Studies and Mathematics at the UW.
Okay, cool. So when did you graduate?
I actually graduated in December of 2019.
Oh, okay, cool. So you're jumping right into it. Nice. So I did get a chance to check out your website a little bit, and I seen that you got involved with politics at the age of 17. I find that really interesting because the only thing I was worried about at the age of 17 was playing video games and playing basketball. So can you tell us a little bit about what got you involved in politics, what inspired you to do that?
Absolutely. I got involved in politics at age 17. At that time, Donald Trump was running for president. He was one of many Republican nominees, but it was May of 2016, and my youngest brother came home from school very, very upset because someone at school had told him that if Donald Trump became president, our family would get deported because we were Muslim. And it was in that conversation, seeing how my 9-year-old brother was affected by somebody who wasn't even an elected official at that point, I realized that politics matters to us locally and in our families. And I decided that I wanted to stand for politicians that expressed compassion and empathy and didn't just say what was ever on their mind. And that's why I got involved at 17, to make sure we could do everything possible to make sure Donald Trump didn't become president. And when we lost in 2016, I realized I'm just going to have to try again and work harder next time to make sure that we do have a win. And that's when I got a job as a field organizer in 2018, and I knocked doors, made phone calls, and made sure that we had a win. And that's the year that we saw Tammy Baldwin and Tony Evers win.
Okay, that's an interesting story. I always find it interesting to ask that question because I feel everyone has a why on why they got in politics. And yours is definitely one of those reasons why it makes sense. So let's go on to your candidacy. Now, it's safe to say that you're running a very Democratic seat, and you probably won't have to go up against a serious Republican. So the real election happens in the primary. So what really separates you from your primary opponents?
I would say that it has to do with the policies that I'm standing for. I took an approach that was far left, and I was unapologetic about it. I wanted to make sure that my true beliefs were out there, because at the bare minimum, I wanted to say that Madison is ready and Wisconsin is ready for a conversation that's at the far left. We don't have to cater to the right, and we don't have to be centralist. We can have a conversation that's at the far left and really bring the progressive changes that we need. And that's how I feel like my candidacy differs from my opponents.
Yeah, most definitely. So some of those policies that I did see that you were really fighting for is, debt-free college, expanding Medicaid, legalization of cannabis, which are all obviously policies that OWR supports. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on those policies and why you feel so passionate about those?
Absolutely. I am hugely passionate about healthcare access, legalizing cannabis, and debt-free college, because I feel like the cost of living, first off, the cost of living in America for middle-class families has grown without much increase in wages for middle-class families, and it's created a huge problem for everyone. especially this economy that we are working so hard to keep together. And I feel like a lot of that comes from this belief that we're putting profits above people and not treating people with empathy or treating them as individuals, but instead treating them as only as valuable as their productivity allows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Healthcare specifically is important because without access to healthcare for everyone, regardless of where you're working, what stage of life you're in, we create these gaps in our community where people forego healthcare, forego seeing a doctor, even if they're having a medical condition. And additionally, specifically right now in this pandemic, I can't argue for Medicare for all more than in the middle of a pandemic when we see a lack of testing available, a lack of care available, a lack of structure for our healthcare system, which I feel like with a Medicare for all approach, these wouldn't be an issue in the middle of a pandemic. Secondly, in regards to debt-free college, I think that the student debt crisis creates a burden on our workforce here in Wisconsin specifically, and young people end up leaving the state to go to other areas in order to get jobs to afford the lifestyle they want to live, which then creates a brain drain here in Wisconsin where we don't have a workforce of those newly graduated college grads. And lastly, related to legalizing cannabis, I think that states bordering Wisconsin have already taken this on, and they've seen an increase to their economy, which I think we should participate in. But I also want to add on that there should be an expungement for nonviolent drug crimes, because we shouldn't just legalize it and then have communities of color suffer because they're disproportionately criminalized for marijuana use.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with you there. I mean, as far as healthcare, there's no better reason than the COVID crisis and exposing the complete illegitimacy of our current system. It's predicted that almost 40 million Americans are going to lose their healthcare due to the COVID crisis, and it really shouldn't be tied to our workplace. There's no argument about that. Changing subjects a little bit, but it also ties into everything at the end of the day. So one of the big fights that OWR was really involved in were the rent strikes. So I was really pleased to see that you were, in this time of crisis, that you were supporting halting evictions, foreclosures, and rent hikes. Can you explain to the viewers why that's such a crucial position to have in such a pivotal time right now?
Absolutely. So in the middle of our pandemic with the COVID-19, when we have pressures on people to go back to work, such as the threat of foreclosure for not being able to pay for rent, or having a rent hike, which makes it so that you won't be able to pay for your rent. People are threatened with home insecurity, which creates a greater pressure to go back out into the public and go expose yourself to COVID in order to work, which in order to alleviate that pressure, we need to halt evictions, halt foreclosures, and halt rent strikes. I would even go as far to say as halting rent and mortgage during this pandemic, not indefinitely, but during this pandemic, because it just creates a culture around working over protecting our community, which I don't value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really glad that you have that position. It is one of the reasons why I was happy to get the chance to interview you. We don't have a lot of politicians bringing up the fact that many people are going to lose their homes, and we need a voice out there to really pick up those who cannot speak for themselves. So I do thank you for supporting that cause, but also changing gears a little bit more. One of the big issues that we have in our system is obviously the influence of money in politics. What is your stance on the influence of big money in politics and the role it plays today?
Get it out. Get big money out of politics. That's my stance. I actually took a pledge to not accept money from fossil fuel industries, and I believe that all politicians should be encouraged to take pledges to not accept money from big corporations. I think it would make sure that we're putting representation for people and not for companies. Does that answer your question? Is there anything more?
Yeah, that pretty much answers it. I mean, sometimes they got to be short and sweet. But yeah, I mean, just to elaborate on that a little bit, we can definitely see the correlation of big money and how some politicians vote. So it's very easy to understand why we need to get it out the system. But some of the things I do want to ask you is, how can people help your campaign? I know we're in a crisis, so I know you're probably going to need as much help as you can. How can they help out?
Absolutely. I need help right now with collecting nomination signatures in order to get on the ballot. And if you go to AishaForStateSenate.com, you can find under the Get Involved tab, there's nomination signatures that you can download, sign, and mail back to me. Right now, this is really important because we can't go out necessarily and collect signatures in the way that we usually would at farmers market because we're trying to keep our community safe. So I really appreciate the people who've been able to download it themselves, sign it, and send it back to me.
Yeah, awesome. And I will have your website down below in the tag, and your Twitter feed, and also the Senate district that you're running for. So all that will be in one little place. But do you have anything else that you want to bring up before we end the interview?
I just wanted to say thank you to OWR. I greatly appreciated the work that they're doing to push progressive politics in our state. So thank you for doing this interview.
Yeah, no problem. We got to thank you as well, because the more progressive candidates that run for office, the happier we're going to be. And the sooner they're in office, we're going to be even more happier. So it's a win-win either way I see it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No problem. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to make sure everyone goes to check out your Facebook and your social medias, and good luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
So we always say in the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.